Hello and welcome back to EV Life, where AMA is keeping you up to speed with everything you need to know about electric vehicles in Alberta. We've got producer Allison Bench in studio today with us to chat about the interview.
Hi, Crystal. So, this podcast, we have chatted about so many things around EVs, but, there's just always something else to talk about. Like news is coming out all the time. There's things changing all the time. And some of the things, we've touched on so far, infrastructure, government initiatives, questions about charging, cold weather. And, we talked about CAA's EV buyer's guide. And that I really liked too, because it helps connect you to what kind of EV might be right for you.
Yeah, it's like we've covered a broad range of topics. EVs are becoming more popular and they will become even more popular and people have questions. And so we're really just trying to get some answers.
Mm-hmm. And then, once people are ready to take that next step, they're feeling like their questions have been answered. The next step in that is buying an EV, right?
Right. Yeah. So with today's episode, we want to take you to that next step in the EV journey by getting more into where you can actually purchase an EV in Alberta. Today's guest is from Go Electric, a Calgary-based used EV dealership that wants to get net zero emission vehicles out there on Alberta's roads.
Mm-hmm. And that company is actually a fairly new one. It was started in 2018, and it was started by a group of engineers in our province who noticed that it was hard to find EVs in Alberta. So they went ahead and started this company, bringing more options here. And because they're used vehicles, they're more accessible and affordable for people who are looking to make the jump and maybe don't have it in their budget to buy a brand new vehicle.
Right. Yeah. So let's jump into that interview with Sean Klug, who is the business and EV strategist with Go Electric, to hear more about what that organization does and some of the specifics of buying a used EV. Hi, Sean. Thank you for joining me today.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
So you work at Go Electric. Can you tell us a little bit about your role there?
Yeah. So I am the marketing and business analyst at Go Electric. So I kind of handle a bunch of things within the company, from our online presence, our digital marketing advertising, as well as our business development and our day-to-day business operations, and then helping all other aspects in the company for accounting, bookkeeping, some sales, and kind of whatever else is needed because we're a pretty small company.
So I want to get into kind of Go Electric's history a little bit and how it got started. But before we jump into that, Go Electric strictly sells pre-owned EVs?
Yes. So we sell pre-owned electric vehicles as well as plug-in hybrids.
Okay. So are you able to tell me a little bit about how the company came to be? And then also, I was browsing your website and I thought the company's vision and mission were quite interesting. So, for example, you say you want to see a world with zero emission vehicles in every driveway. And also the mission of the company is to provide affordable EV options. So are you able to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So Go Electric started in 2018 with two electrical engineers that were working in the oil and gas industry and had a passion for converting their own lawnmower and other vehicles to electric.
Oh, wow.
And then just saw a gap in the market that there just weren't enough electric vehicles in Alberta. So they started to import them from the US and just bring more options here. And then that grew and expanded to the point where we're able to bring in other electric vehicles from across the country. So it's not just ones from the US anymore.
Right.
And we've expanded our offerings just to have more vehicles and more variety within what we are offering here. And exclusively plug-in hybrids and pure electric vehicles is what we try to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so our mission is to have a world with zero-emission vehicles in every driveway. So that would be either a plug-in hybrid or a pure electric vehicle.
Right.
And just trying to promote that and the benefits of them within Calgary, within Alberta, and just across the country. And what we try and do is offer an affordable option. So a lot of people see an electric vehicle as a very expensive option.
Yeah.
But if you get it a couple of years old, then that can definitely reduce the price of the upfront costs. And then we also try to provide the education piece for what it's like to own an EV on a day-to-day basis. And then the actual ownership of it and the operating costs being significantly less than that of a gas vehicle.
So if someone comes in to buy an EV from you, they're not just, walking into and getting a car. You're also going to educate them on kind of what would be the best model for their needs.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of what we do is education and information. So it starts with a conversation with the customer or potential customer about what their needs are, what they're going to use the vehicle for, what their actual knowledge and understanding for an EV is,
Mhm.
and then trying to provide as much of that information as we can, and then trying to narrow down what vehicle might actually be best for their specific situation.
Yeah. And is that the reason why the company decided to only sell pre-owned was for the affordability?
Well, that's part of it, and it's also to be a dealership that sells new vehicles. It's a different kind of process, and
Okay.
you are more likely to be with just one manufacturer.
Mhm.
And we see by being in the used market, we can bring in all different types of makes and models. We're not limited to just one.
You can offer more of a variety.
Exactly, more options to choose from, especially in Alberta where there's not a lot of options to begin with.
Right. So I kind of find your business model very interesting. So when people think of dealerships, I think a lot of people go in thinking that they'll have to haggle on the price, but that's not really the case at Go Electric. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we offer a no haggle price.
Mm.
So we put our best foot forward based on current market prices, and we try to provide a very affordable, attractive option for all of our vehicles. And there's no additional fees, there's no hidden fees or anything associated with that.
Mm.
And trying to just make it as easy as possible for people to come in, know that they're getting a good deal, a good vehicle, and don't have to worry about, oh, did I negotiate that properly or could I gotten an extra little bit off of that car? Just knowing that it's the best value that we can provide in the market.
So there's no wiggle room to haggle, right? Like when I come in, the sticker price, that is the price I'm going to pay always.
Exactly. Yeah, the price is the price, and it's just that plus GST. And so there's no other stuff to worry about.
And the sales people do not make a commission. And so that's part of the incentive too, right? Like they I guess, don't have to sell you that vehicle. They're just trying to sell you the best one for you. Is that correct?
Exactly. So we try to have no pressure sales. So we just like to have a conversation with people, find out what their actual best needs are. And if we have the vehicle, great. If we don't, we'll still try to provide information with people and try to point them in the right direction.
Yeah. So if I decide to buy a pre-owned EV, are there different considerations I need to be aware of versus like if I go in to just buy, a typical ICE vehicle?
Yes. So they are pretty different vehicles, I guess, at their core. So for the gas vehicle, obviously, mileage is a big thing. That kind of tells you how much it was driven, as well as the highway versus city driving and who drove it. For an electric vehicle, I guess it's a little bit simpler because for an electric motor, the motor will last the life of the vehicle. And so mileage doesn't really matter as much on an electric vehicle.
Right.
And then the city versus highway, most EVs are going to be driven more in the city, just by nature from a shorter range and from what people are using them for. So the main thing to kind of look at for an electric vehicle is obviously the condition of the vehicle, that it is in pretty good shape, but it's the battery and the estimated battery health that is remaining on the vehicle.
Okay.
And that's something that we ourselves are able to scan and be able to get a pretty accurate figure for on our vehicles to provide that to our customers so they know what they're getting into and how much life that vehicle most likely has left on it.
Okay. So the battery life is kind of the key thing that you need to be aware of when buying pre-owned.
Yeah, exactly. In some cars, it's a lot easier to find that number. So the Nissan Leaf, for example, displays that right on the dash with a set of bars. But most other vehicles, it's not easily accessible.
Right.
And so either certain specialty shops might be able to access that, a kind of savvy person with the right equipment would be able to access that themselves, or a place like us can also access that to be able to provide an accurate figure for the battery health.
How difficult is it to replace that battery?
Yeah. So that's definitely a question we get pretty regularly. And one of the main things we kind of want to start off with is it's extremely rare to replace a battery.
Oh.
So in the hundreds of vehicles we've sold, it's only happened, I think, 3 or 4 times. So it's not a very likely situation.
Okay.
Most of the EV batteries are designed to last 15, 20 plus years.
Oh, wow.
And most of the cars are only 5 to 10 years old. So there's still a lot of life left on them. And so to actually replace a battery, how easy it is and how much it costs very much depends on the car itself.
Okay.
So again, going back to a Nissan Leaf, which is one of the most popular EVs that is out there aside from Teslas, that's one of the easier batteries to replace. both in terms of the actual steps and process to drop the battery and put in a new one, as well as the access to finding another one and the cost to put it in there. If you have a more niche EV that hasn't been sold very much, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult to at least find a new battery.
Right.
And the process to do so could be more complicated depending on which vehicle it is. But the cost is not substantial. Like it's not necessarily $20,000, $30,000 to replace your battery.
Okay.
Like a lot of people have talked about, a lot of times it's in the $5,000 to $10,000 range for a lot of the first generation EVs.
Okay.
And again, it's not likely to happen in the first 10, 15 years of the life of the vehicle, most likely. So
good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other services that Go Electric provides that our listeners may not be aware of?
Yeah. Well, I guess one small thing along with our sales is if we don't have a vehicle in stock that a customer wants, we are able to do what we call a pre-order, where we're able to search out specifically a vehicle that a customer is looking for, that we agree to beforehand what they're looking for make, model, color, mileage, for example, and then bring that in specifically for that customer so that they don't have to continue searching across all the different channels. And so we bring it in for them in the same process that we would our vehicles, do the same reconditioning, make sure it's all fully detailed, repaired if needed, and registerable in Alberta, and then the customer gets it directly.
That's awesome. So you're basically doing the procurement for them. That's great to know.
Exactly.
Is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know about Go Electric?
Yeah. So we are in the same building as OK Tire on 17th Ave Southwest, and actually it's the same ownership. And the mechanics at the OK Tire service all of our vehicles, and we have EV certified technicians there as well. And so we not only sell the vehicles, but we're able to service the electric vehicles we sell in other electric vehicles as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so for anyone that has an electric vehicle or plug-in hybrid vehicle, if they do need service and they're not quite sure where to go, we're definitely able to do a lot of that work here or point them in the right direction. And then we also are able to provide like obviously accessories and other things for the vehicles as needed.
And I know right now your only location is that one in Calgary. Are there plans to expand?
Yeah, we've talked about expanding. There's a couple other locations that we've looked at, and we sell vehicles all across Canada. So we don't just sell within Calgary.
Okay.
We sell a lot of vehicles to Edmonton and across Alberta. We sell to other provinces as well. And we sold quite a few actually to the North, Yukon and Northwest Territories also. If
someone in, say, Edmonton wanted to buy from you, it would be quite easy. Would they have to come down to Calgary, or is there a way to do that otherwise? Yeah, so they don't have to come here if they're willing to basically not have to travel all this way. Right.
So we can do a video call so they can see the vehicle in person. We can do a video test drive so they can still see all aspects of the vehicle without actually being here in person.
Oh, wow. A video test drive.
And then we can transport the vehicle anywhere in Canada too.
So, sorry, can you tell me a little bit about the video test drive? Because I haven't really heard about that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so the main thing that people usually ask for is just like a walk around of the vehicle to see all the different angles and kind of see it a little bit more closely than just the photos. And so it's either taking a video and sharing it with them or doing a live video with the customer,
right?
Just around the vehicle. And then if they're interested, we can also go on a drive as well. So we'd have one person in the passenger seat with their phone taking a video to kind of show what the vehicle would be like and explaining some of the things about the EV if they're not quite sure about it.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for talking to me today. This was really interesting.
For sure. My pleasure.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the EV Life podcast. As always, make sure that you're subscribed so you know when a new episode is out. And if you want to contact us here at the EV Life Studios, send us an email at community@ama.ab.ca. And we can't wait for you to listen to next week's episode. See you then.